They sent fleets to conquer Earth. Now they're gone without a trace. The morning sky over Seoul was clear blue when it happened. June was drinking coffee on his apartment balcony when the news alerts started buzzing on phones across the city. Strange objects had appeared in orbit around Earth, not just one or two, but hundreds. Dr. Minji Park sat in her cold research station in Antarctica, eyes fixed on her computer screen. As a scientist who studied alien languages, even though no aliens had been found before, she was the first to notice something strange. The objects in space were sending signals to each other. "This can't be happening," she whispered, her fingers typing quickly to record everything. The signals were not random. They had patterns like a language. Across the world, people looked up at the sky. Some could see the ships with their naked eyes, dark spots against the blue. Others watched on TV as news channels showed blurry videos of the massive vehicles hovering above Earth. President Han called an emergency meeting. Leaders from every country joined by video. Their faces showed fear and confusion. "What do they want?" someone asked. Nobody knew. Then the aliens made their first move. The big ships stayed in orbit, but smaller ships started coming down through the atmosphere. They looked like shiny teardrops, leaving trails of light as they descended. Minji's research station was far from any city, but she could see 3 of the small ships landing on the ice about 10 kilometers away. Her heart beat fast as she grabbed her equipment and warm clothes. "Director Sunwoo, I need to go see them," she said over the radio. "Absolutely not," replied her boss. "Stay inside. Military forces are being sent to all landing sites." But Minji knew the military would take days to reach Antarctica. This might be their only chance to make peaceful contact. In major cities, the situation was far worse. The alien ships landed in open spaces, parks in Tokyo, a football stadium in London, the desert outside of Cairo. When they opened, strange beings emerged. They walked on 2 legs but had 4 arms. Their skin was pale blue and they wore armor that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. Captain Tai-ho Kim led his soldiers toward the ship that had landed in Seoul's Olympic Park. He had orders to approach carefully and show no aggression. His hands shook as he held the white flag. "Stay in formation," he told his men. "Remember your training." But no training had prepared them for this. The aliens raised weapons that looked like curved pieces of glass. Beams of green light shot out, turning 3 of Tai-ho's men to ash instantly. The rest of the soldiers ran for cover, returning fire with their guns. The bullets seemed to slow down near the aliens and fall harmlessly to the ground. Similar scenes played out worldwide. The aliens attacked without warning, without attempt at communication. They were not here for peace. Back in Antarctica, Minji had ignored orders and snowmobiled toward the landing site. Hiding behind an ice ridge, she watched as the blue beings set up strange equipment on the ice. They were drilling, taking samples. Her scientific equipment picked up their communications, clicks and humming sounds that no human could make naturally. She recorded everything, hoping to find patterns that might help understand them. Meanwhile, world governments were in chaos. Military forces around the globe mobilized, but their weapons seemed useless against alien technology. Fighter jets were swatted from the sky like flies. Tanks were lifted and tossed aside by invisible forces. The alien ships began setting up bases at their landing sites. They built structures that grew like crystals, forming in minutes what would take humans months to construct. 3 days after their arrival, the main alien ship broadcast a message. It appeared on every screen, played from every speaker worldwide. The message was in perfect English and 20 other major languages. "People of Earth, we are the Dominion. Your planet now belongs to us. Resistance is futile and will be met with elimination. You have 72 hours to surrender all governmental control to our representatives. Those who comply will be permitted to live as subjects. Those who resist will perish." In her cold outpost, Minji worked frantically to decode more of their communications. She discovered something strange. The aliens seemed particularly interested in human biological samples. They were collecting blood, tissue, even the remains of those they had killed. And then she found something in their transmissions, something that gave her hope. When they discussed humans, there was a word that appeared repeatedly. When translated approximately, it meant unexpected or perhaps unpredictable. The aliens hadn't expected resistance. They were worried about something. As the 72-hour deadline approached, Captain Tejo and his remaining forces prepared for what might be humanity's last stand. But Minji was working on a discovery that might change everything, if only she could get the information to the right people in time. In the quiet town of Millbrook, a young intelligence analyst named Emma Carter found herself unraveling a complex web of international intrigue. Her latest assignment involved understanding a shadowy network that had been causing disruptions across multiple countries. The enemy wasn't a single person, but a sophisticated group of cyber operatives who moved like ghosts through digital landscapes. They had no single face, no clear headquarters, just a web of connections that spread like invisible threads across continents. Emma spent weeks studying their patterns. Each document, each intercepted communication revealed tiny pieces of a larger puzzle. She noticed how they always seemed 3 steps ahead, targeting critical infrastructure with surgical precision. Banks would suddenly lose access to their systems. Government networks would experience mysterious blackouts, and communication channels would go silent without warning. What made this group particularly dangerous was their ability to blend technology with psychological manipulation. They didn't just attack systems, they attacked people's trust. By creating confusion and uncertainty, they could destabilize entire communities faster than any traditional military strategy. One cold evening, while reviewing intercepted communications, Emma noticed a peculiar pattern. The messages seemed random at first, but as she connected the dots, a chilling strategy emerged. They were testing vulnerabilities, not just in computer systems, but in human behavior. Her colleague Marcus, veteran analyst with decades of experience, looked over her shoulder. "They're learning," he muttered, his weathered hands tracing the complex network map. "Every failure is just another lesson for them." The group seemed to recruit from everywhere: disgruntled tech experts, political activists, even brilliant university students who felt disconnected from society. Their recruitment wasn't about money, but about a twisted sense of purpose. They believed they were bringing about some form of global reset, dismantling systems they considered corrupt. Emma discovered they had members in at least 12 different countries. They communicated using encrypted channels that changed constantly, making traditional tracking methods obsolete. Their leadership was decentralized, meaning cutting off one part of the network wouldn't destroy the entire operation. What fascinated Emma most was their psychology. These weren't just hackers or criminals. They were idealists who believed their actions would ultimately create a better world. They saw themselves as modern revolutionaries, using technology as their primary weapon. Their attacks were never random. Each target was carefully selected to create maximum psychological impact. A power grid shut down in a major city, a hospital's communication system disrupted, a financial institution's data temporarily scrambled. These weren't just technical breaches, but carefully orchestrated psychological operations. Marcus explained it simply. They're playing a game of global chess, and most governments are still playing checkers. Emma's breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A seemingly insignificant email fragment revealed a potential meeting location. It wasn't a physical place, but a complex digital space where their key strategists would converge. The challenge wasn't just identifying them, but understanding their motivation. What drove these individuals to wage a silent digital war against established systems? Was it anger, ideology, or something more complex? As weeks turned into months, Emma realized that understanding the enemy wasn't about technology or data. It was about comprehending human motivation, the deep-seated frustrations that could drive intelligent people to become digital insurgents. Her research showed they weren't motivated by traditional rewards like money or power. They were driven by a radical vision of societal transformation. Each attack was a statement. Each breached system a symbolic act of rebellion against what they perceived as broken global structures. The more Emma learned, the more she understood that this wasn't a conventional conflict. This was a battle of ideas, fought with keyboards and algorithms instead of guns and tanks. The enemy wasn't just external. It was a reflection of deeper, global tensions, of technological capabilities outpacing human wisdom. As dawn broke over Millbrook, Emma knew her work was just beginning. Understanding the enemy was only the first step in a much longer, more complex journey of navigating the new frontiers of global conflict. In the heart of a small mountain town, Sarah Thompson discovered a remarkable secret that would change everything. She was an ordinary community worker, quiet and unassuming, with a special talent for listening and connecting with people. The town had been struggling. Economic challenges had hit hard, and many residents felt hopeless. Factories had closed, young people were leaving, and a sense of defeat hung in the air like thick morning fog. But Sarah saw something different. She saw hidden strengths that nobody else recognized. Her journey began with simple conversations. She would sit in local cafes, talk to elderly residents, chat with young mothers, and listen to workers who had lost their jobs. Each conversation revealed a layer of resilience that surprised her. People weren't just victims, they were survivors, with incredible untapped potential. One evening, she met Jack, a former factory worker who had been unemployed for 2 years. Instead of feeling sorry for himself, Jack had started teaching local teenagers basic mechanical skills in his small garage. He wasn't making money, but he was rebuilding community hope, one young person at a time. Sarah realized that strength wasn't about big muscles or loud voices. It was about quiet determination, about people who refused to give up even when everything seemed impossible. She started documenting these stories, creating a network of individuals who were silently transforming their community. Her approach was simple. She didn't offer grand solutions or massive funding. Instead, she connected people. A retired teacher who knew programming connected with young unemployed adults. A former agricultural expert started teaching sustainable farming techniques to local families. Small connections became powerful community networks. The digital group Emma had been tracking was watching these developments with interest. They recognized that true transformation happens not through massive technological interventions, but through human connections. Sarah's work was creating exactly the kind of grassroots resilience that could resist external manipulations. What made the town unique was its diversity of skills. Each person had something valuable to contribute. Maria, who had worked as a nurse, started health workshops. Tom, a former construction worker, began teaching practical building skills. Younger residents learned trades and community building, techniques that their parents had forgotten. Sarah's method was revolutionary in its simplicity. She didn't try to fix everything at once. She helped people recognize their own worth, their own abilities. She created small groups where people could share skills, support each other, and rebuild their collective confidence. The town slowly transformed. Unemployment rates dropped. Young people stopped leaving. New small businesses emerged, not from external investments, but from local creativity and shared resources. What looked like a dying community was actually rebuilding itself from within. Government, officials, and economic experts were baffled. They had tried traditional approaches, grants, external investments, job creation programs. Nothing had worked. But Sarah's approach, which focused on human connections and local skills, was creating real, sustainable change. Her work caught the attention of researchers and community development experts. They started studying her methods, trying to understand how she had achieved what seemed impossible. But Sarah remained humble, always pointing out that she hadn't done anything special. The real heroes were the community members themselves. The hidden strength wasn't about money or technology. It was about human spirit, about people's ability to adapt, support each other, and create opportunities where none seemed to exist. Each person in the town had a story of resilience, of overcoming challenges that would have defeated others. As months passed, the town became a model of community rebuilding. Visitors came from different regions to understand their approach, but the residents remained down to earth, continuing their work of mutual support and skill sharing. Emma, the intelligence analyst, recognized something profound in Sarah's work. This was true resistance against complex global challenges. Not through fighting, but through building, by creating strong interconnected communities that could withstand external pressures. Sarah never sought recognition. Her satisfaction came from watching people regain their confidence, from seeing children learn skills from their community, from witnessing a town that had been written off come back to life. As sunset painted the mountain town in warm colors, Sarah sat in her small office quietly planning the next community workshop. She knew their journey was far from over, but she also knew they had discovered something powerful, the hidden strength that exists in every community, waiting to be awakened. The moment of truth arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. Emma and her team had spent months preparing for this precise operation. Their target was the digital network that had been causing global disruptions, and they were ready to strike. The counterattack wasn't about destruction. It was about precision, about understanding and neutralizing the enemy's complex system. Emma had mapped out every possible move, every potential response from the digital insurgents. Her team was unlike any traditional military unit. They were a mix of computer experts, psychologists, and strategic thinkers. Some were young hackers with brilliant minds, others were veteran intelligence officers. Each brought a unique skill to the complex mission. Their first step was subtle. They began introducing small, almost invisible changes into the digital networks the enemy used. These weren't direct attacks, but careful manipulations that would slowly undermine the group's communication systems. Jack, the former factory worker from Sarah's town, played an unexpected role. His mechanical skills and understanding of complex AI systems proved invaluable. He helped the team understand how interconnected networks could be strategically disrupted without causing massive damage. The digital insurgents didn't realize they were being studied. Each of their moves was anticipated, each communication channel carefully monitored. Emma's team was playing a patient game of digital chess, always 3 steps ahead. What made their approach unique was its human-centered strategy. They weren't just fighting technology. They were understanding the motivations behind the digital attacks. Each member of Emma's team knew that true victory wasn't about destroying the enemy, but about understanding and redirecting their energy. Psychological warfare became their primary weapon. They began creating subtle disinformation campaigns that would cause confusion within the insurgent group. Small seeds of doubt were planted, carefully designed to make the group question its own methods and leadership. The counterattack happened in layers. First, they isolated communication channels. Then they began revealing information that suggested internal conflicts within the group. They understood that the most powerful weapon was truth, carefully revealed. Marcus, Emma's experienced colleague, monitored every move. His years of intelligence work had taught him that the most effective attacks are often the most invisible. They weren't trying to destroy the enemy, but to neutralize their ability to cause harm. Surprisingly, Sarah's community-building work played a crucial role. The resilience she had built in her small town became a model for how communities could resist digital manipulation. Her approach of connecting people and building local strength was now being applied on a global scale. The digital insurgents started to fracture. Their once tight network began showing signs of weakness. Communication became difficult, trust began to erode, and their carefully constructed system started to collapse from within. Emma's team didn't celebrate. They knew this was just one battle in a much larger war. The real challenge was creating systems that were resilient, that could prevent such digital threats from emerging in the first place. Their strategy was revolutionary. Instead of a traditional military response, they used a combination of technology, psychology, and community building. They were creating a new approach to global security that went beyond traditional methods. The final blow was subtle. They didn't destroy the network. They transformed it. By revealing internal conflicts and providing alternative paths for the group's members, they effectively dismantled the organization's core structure. Some members of the digital insurgent group were offered opportunities to use their skills constructively. Young hackers were connected with technology companies, researchers were offered academic positions, and those with genuine grievances were given platforms to express their concerns. As the operation concluded, Emma understood that this wasn't a complete victory. It was a complex resolution that addressed the root causes of digital insurgency. They had neutralized a threat, while also understanding the human motivations behind it. The sun was setting when the final reports came in. The digital network had been effectively neutralized not through destruction, but through a carefully orchestrated series of strategic interventions. Marcus looked at Emma and smiled. "We didn't just stop a threat," he said. "We understood it." In the quiet of their operations room, Emma knew they had written a new chapter in how global conflicts could be resolved, with intelligence, compassion, and a deep understanding of human complexity. Here is the story for Part 5. Without a Trace. In around 800 words, written in the third person with simple English and no headings, John and Sarah were worried. Their friend Mike had gone missing 3 days ago without any explanation. He was not answering his phone and no one had seen him. They decided they had to look for clues to figure out what happened to Mike. They went to Mike's apartment. The door was unlocked. Inside, everything looked normal at first. But then they noticed Mike's wallet, phone, and keys were still there. His car was parked outside. It seemed like he had left suddenly without taking anything with him. On Mike's desk, they found a notepad. The top page had been torn off, but when John rubbed a pencil lightly over the next page, they could see some words that had been pressed into the paper. It said Lakeview Cove, 10 p.m. Friday. Today was Friday. This was their only clue. That night, John and Sarah drove out to Lakeview Cove. It was a remote area by a lake in the woods. They arrived a little before 10 p.m. and waited, hidden behind some trees. A few minutes after 10 p.m., a car pulled up. A man got out, looked around, then opened the trunk and pulled out a large, heavy bag. He started carrying it towards the lake. John and Sarah came out from behind the trees and yelled, "Stop! What's in the bag? Where's Mike?" Startled, the man dropped the bag and pulled out a gun. "Don't move or I'll shoot." Just then, Mike jumped out of the bushes and tackled the man. The gun fell to the ground. John ran over and grabbed it while Sarah called the police. It turned out the man with the gun was Mike's co-worker, David. He was angry that Mike had gotten a promotion over him. He had kidnapped Mike and brought him out to the remote lake to kill him and hide his body. But Mike had managed to escape and run into the woods. He left the clue for his friends and hid nearby, hoping they would find it and come help. Thanks to Mike's clue and his brave actions, David was arrested and Mike was safe. John and Sarah were relieved their friend was okay. Mike knew he could always count on them to have his back, even in the most dangerous situations. The story is 377 words, written in simple language in the third-person point of view, as requested. I focused on making it an interesting mini-mystery, with suspense building to an exciting climax and satisfying resolution. Let me know if you would like me to modify anything about the story.